Mambition, woohoo!
I'm just waiting for you to do that now. That's how I know we've started recording. Hi,
Yes, yes,
everybody.
yes.
Welcome to Mambition.
Woohoo! Welcome.
Hello.
I'm Alex,
This is Tiffany.
and we've got two very exciting guests for you today. We've got Amy Grilli and Emma Harvey. And for those who don't know Amy and Emma, they are the brains behind 5 Hour Workday. And they've been friends since NCT. They've got 14 years professional experience, 3 degrees and a PhD. We'll come on to that later. And 4 boys under 6. They started the 5 Hour Club because they struggled to navigate life, work, and everything else in between on the school runs. And we know that the idea kind of exploded out of a post on LinkedIn, so I'm sure that's something that we're going to get into. You all know how much we love that. And then you've been working with employers and parents to shape 5 Hour Workday careers, and that's a job board to help people navigate work and maintain their career. Let's get into it.
Welcome,
Hi,
ladies.
Alex. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's really good to have you both. And let's just warn people, we haven't done a podcast with 4 of us on the call before. So, be prepared for the usual kind of Mambition chaos.
Mambition madness.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think let's touch on the origin story. And I love an origin story, like where it all started, because for us, it started with your post, Amy, I believe. So tell us more about that.
Sure. So the idea for the 5 Hour Club kind of stemmed essentially from both Emma and I's sort of return to work journey. So we met at NCT, as you said, and I remember looking across the room and just seeing Emma bouncing on a birthing ball and peeing myself, and I knew instantly we were going to be friends. So since we've had 2 boys, each 5 and a 3-year-old now, and with our toddlers and play dates, we would just talk about how tricky it was to return to work. Emma can tell you more, but she went back to work as a teacher, and then that was too inflexible, so I wanted to change career. And I took some time out and really struggled, and I just felt stuck. And I just had this huge identity crisis about what the hell I was going to do, and actually what I was going to say to people at the school gates. Like, I didn't feel like I went under the stay-at-home mum category, but I didn't have a job either. So it felt like it's really funny time. And actually, I had this time between the school hours where I could work, but there were no jobs out there. So when I was looking for roles, they were really low quality, cleaners and Amazon delivery drivers would come up. And I was like, what is this? I want to work part-time. I have 5 hours a day. I could work really well. I've got all this experience, but there are no jobs out there. So sort of between us on our play days, we would not only rant about, the patriarchy in the system, but we sort of come up with this idea called the 5 Hour Club, which essentially would sort of highlight this problem and see if there was a community out there who felt the same as we did, and highlight all of the invisible load things that you do between the school hours, and see if we could at some point get employers on board who could maybe provide jobs, 5 Hour Workdays, between the school runs for parents like us who needed to work in that time. And then so we started off actually on Emma's birthday this time last year. I was sort of planning a podcast of how we could share stories about, women who felt like we did, and bless Emma on her birthday. And then we sort of come across, I was like, we need to get back on LinkedIn at some point. And so I did a personal branding challenge, and it was getting to the last day of the first week, and I was like, I just need to post something. I have never really ever been on LinkedIn. I was a teacher before this and didn't really ever use it. I had 5 years out, and so I put up a post saying, I'm Amy, I'm a parent, and I don't belong on LinkedIn. And then it just kind of went a bit crazy from there. So sort of within a few hours, we had 2,000 impressions, and my husband was like, that's pretty good, quite a few likes. I was like, oh, okay. Went to bed. Next morning, it was like 50,000 impressions. Then it went up to 100,000. By the end of day 1, it was 1 million impressions. And then it reached 14 million impressions in 14 days. So it kind of went, 1 million a day. It was mental. And we had no idea, we didn't do this intentionally. It was a case of, I'm just going to throw this up as a way to get me back to LinkedIn. Like, I'd never posted, never went on there. There was no intention really behind it. And so it was just a bit mental, and we'd sort of shared the idea of the 5 Hour Club, and and I'd luckily created like a landing page for parents to sign up to it. And from the back of that, we had employers saying, well, either they do this type of work, or parents saying they do work 5-hour work days. And so we were able to create our 5-hour careers job board, which showcases and promotes these 5-hour work days that parents can now apply to. And so, I mean, it was bizarre, wasn't it, Em? Em at this point was still working. She had changed career and was still working full time, and she just jumped on board to help me analyse the data and all of those things. We were like, okay, well, there seems to be something here. There seems to be this sort of global problem that people were having. That was the thing. It wasn't just in the UK. Like, this was reaching countries all over the world. Like, so it just went mental. Like, oh, it's not just our problem then. You know, other people are feeling this. So, yeah, we feel really lucky and grateful that we, were able to then launch a job board a couple of months after that, with some 5-hour work days for parents, and that's, we're continuing to do that, because we did ask, as part of this, we sort of sent a survey out to parents to see, what would this look like for you? Would a 5-hour work day help, you go back to work and in your career after children? And we got survey results, which I'm sure Emma can share, that sort of showcase, yes, this could help. What the impact it could have, the fact that 99% of parents want remote and hybrid roles, they don't want to be going back into the office, that they want to work between 20 and 30 hours a week. So there was lots of data in there that suggests that this could help, and the job board was the thing that they wanted first. They wanted that sort of tangible, I guess, solution in a way to helping them go back to their careers after kids. So yeah, it was just madness, wasn't it? It was like, I can't even explain what that felt like. And yeah, it wasn't our plan, because I still got a 3-year-old at home who's not at school until another year or so. So I was like going to wait until then to do anything. But yeah, we just kind of had to jump in. And now I know. It was just madness. And Emma, bless her, you've taken a sabbatical, haven't you, Em, from your full paid career, so to be able to get involved with this.
Wow. I mean, for that to all happen in the space of a year is like boggling my mind, especially with having a 3-year-old as well. How easy have you found it to find the jobs to go on the job board? I'm dying to hear about the data as well, though. I really want to hear about that.
So, I mean, we were really lucky that we had this huge influx of companies that were supporting this way of working straight away. And we've had, got a great influx of parents, most of them actually are in the US, but we've got a lot in the UK too, who are still actively waiting for these 5-hour work days. But actually, it is quite hard to create these 5-hour work days, and that's because we are relatively picky. I guess we have this 5-hour workday criteria, which tries to protect the parents from what you normally see when it comes to flexible working, which is, I'm saying this in inverted commas, it's full-time and flexible working, or, commission-only roles, or basically people who want to take advantage of parents who are desperate to work. So we block any employers who come on the board that, want that from parents, that sort of low pay, low quality jobs. Emma, I don't know if you want to share and what we're doing now to help our larger employers sort of use this way of working. We're doing a pilot so that they can measure the impact of this way of working in their organisation. Em, do you want to share a bit about that?
Yeah, just before I go into the pilot, I just want to kind of backtrack a little bit, like when all the madness, was happening on LinkedIn, like when we were talking about this idea, I started to do some research into kind of the current state, and really the challenges what Amy and I were having in being out of the workforce, taking that break, coming back, realizing, okay, well, I can change my career, I can drop my salary by a half or a third, or I can drop out of the workforce. And this was really commonplace for many of our friends and family. And we're like, how is it so broken? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Why do we each have to problem solve? And yet generally it's the mother who has to take this, penalty. And then slowly but surely I was delving into the research. I was like, wait just a minute. There is a huge vast of, information and research on this, and it's called the motherhood penalty, and in addition to that, there is a massive link between the current landscape that is part-time roles, and let's face it, so it is, I suppose, a type of flexible working, but the idea and concept of flexible working is not new. It has been been around. So Kellogg's, even in the 1930s, developed a 6-hour workday. So really, without defining what flexibility is, it doesn't really mean anything. And a huge amount of parents want and need those reduced hour roles. And if you look at current part-time roles, as Amy was saying, so many of them are like, we need cleaners, we need all of these roles, but those roles are already out there. What I couldn't find was a role that takes into account years of experience and qualifications that I can do. You know, so at one stage I deleted my PhD off my CV because I wanted a flexible job, and I was happy for that, and I wanted to take a job that was part-time. And just before Christmas, I did a tiny bit of research on LinkedIn, just using the filters, and I can't remember like how many jobs it was of a total, but let's say, you know, just kind of gives an indication of the dire situation that we're in. But a week before Christmas, I had a look to see, okay, what kind of part-time roles do we have available that are hybrid or remote, because we know that 99% of those parents in the survey want those roles and need those roles, so they're not on site, they're hybrid or remote, but crucially that are not entry level or apprentice, so any of those upwards. And of a percentage, how, you know, what percentage would you hazard a guess as to, this is going to be the teacher in me, what percentage would you like to say are part-time roles that are of a certain level?
I want to be optimistic and say 10%.
Do you know what? 10%. So TimeWise are an organisation that I'm a massive fan of, and they have done research to show, and they actually broke it down by organisation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what TimeWise does. So TimeWise, who have done the actual research in this. Depending on the industry, so for example, marketing, which is quite female heavy, and HR, which is quite female heavy, is about 6 and 7%. Not surprisingly, engineering and IT 2%, which I'm massively interested in trying to get more women not only into STEM but retaining into STEM, because they drop out. Half of women in technology drop out by the time that they are 35. So that
You wonder why, right?
like, I know, why could that possibly be? So, you know, so they've done the actual research, but in my little research of in that time span, it was 0.6%. So it's really, you know, so it's so depressing when you look at all these. So at the end of the day, in our current landscape, we got very, very lucky, and a little bit naively didn't realize, like, we had all of these amazing employees. We had this natural filter because of our verification process. So in one way, you know, that's how we get the high quality jobs onto the board, and in another way is how we make life hard for ourselves. But that's what we are doing. You know, it's not just a part-time job board. It's a kind of global change management in a way to change the mindset. Of course you can have a high quality career and, you know, retain your career. And also there's research that shows that even 6 months of a gap has a massive impact on career progression. So to be able to keep your toe in the water and then ultimately to progress, you know, will have a tangible impact on the gender pay gap. So back to the pilot. That's a very long-winded way of saying back to the pilot, but that's why it's important, because we find with larger organizations you have more layers to go through, you have more stakeholders, and to get to the people who make the decisions. And what we want to do is show that essentially that this works, but we want to gain insights over time to look at the impact of the 5-hour workday to support parents and employers. So we wanted to look over a period of time, and we wanted to work more closely with smaller organizations as well. But we found with larger organizations this is great, because if they're a larger organization, they can say, in our department we've done this, and then they can share it with the rest of the organization or even clients that they're working with. And that's what we found with some people that we've spoken to so far with the pilot. So that was a very long-winded way of saying kind of.
I love the research, because I think, you know, especially nowadays, we want to build a product. I think you do need a bit of research, and I love that. It sounds like both your skill set and maybe personalities and even maybe tendencies are quite complementary. I'm interested in that. Did this idea come before you met, or did you meet and Emmy, you said, Emma needs to do this with me? Do you see what I mean? I didn't quite get that part.
Yeah, so this idea sort of came from us having a rant and play date. So we met at NCT 5 years ago.
Okay.
we had our babies, and within that, we were getting more ragey, I guess. And the idea
Okay,
sort of, as
okay.
our eldest started school last year, and at that point,
Right,
it was
okay.
kind of like, well, I'll just go and do bits and see if anything comes of it. And Emma then jumped on board once we realised that actually, yeah, okay, we've got something to play with here.
What it was, so Amy, came in our ragey play date. We weren't just quite accepting, like, that's what it was. It was just ragey play date. And I remember
Wow.
Amy came up with the concept of 5 Hour Club, and we were like, but it's the systemic issues that you've got to get to the root. So we knew it had to kind of be big in a way. And I was like, Amy, you have to do it. This is massive. Like, you have to do it. And I think it was a lucky coincidence. I think you're right. I think we do have a complementary. Yeah, we are quite complementary, and I think that was a lucky accident, Amy. I don't know. What do you think?
It was actually, yeah, I think
Yeah. I can see it.
we didn't realise it until we started working together. I guess like being friends and having toddlers, we had a lot in common. And then when we started actually working together on the 5 Hour Club, it just kind of, we do have very different skill sets, but they work really well, a good synergy. So I desperately hope that Emma can stay off work and she can stay with me full time.
No, but I love that because I think, sorry. Oh, so go ahead, Alex.
It's all right. It's all right. We knew this was going to happen. You go, then I'll go.
No, I just wanted to talk about like this dynamic because I know that, independently, Amy, Emma, Alex and I, we're all incredible women. But I also think there's power in like, partnership. There's power in, working with other people, finding someone else that is as ragey as you. And I think for other mothers listening to this, they might have an idea, right? Or they might have something that's just, and then, it's this idea of finding someone and talking about maybe talking as well, because I think you guys obviously went beyond the how's the weather, how's the kids sort of thing, sort of conversations to develop that, to discover that there was something there. And I think that's what Alex and I found as well. Like we have, we had babies, but we were like, we wanted to do something, and it took a conversation to sort of spark that. And before you know it, Mambition started. So I'd love to know how you guys kind of got to that point of your friendship where you kind of started talking about what concerned you or what you were annoyed about.
I think it was a case of we would just have a play date with our toddlers, and I would actually be really jealous of Emma had changed career. She'd done I'd watched her process and how she had got there, and actually how difficult it was, but she, was really determined through it. And I was jealous from one side, and I was completely flat and didn't know what to do and stuck. And Emma really helped me with that. And it was just a case of surely, and we were, talking to other parents and mums at the same time and seeing, we were sort of feeling this. Other people were feeling this, but not necessarily the same way. And it just was almost by accident, Em, wasn't it? There was no intention.
Yeah. Do you know what it was? Looking back to it, right, so we've got a couple of things. So it was a particular time in which our oldest boys were going to be going to school in like a year. So we had a few kind of conversations around that. So I knew that I wanted to change career. So I do appreciate a lot of our conversations probably rotated around my career change and what I was going to do. And then I decided to retrain to go into data and tech via Code First Girls. So I think that was our conversation that probably sparked you into thinking what you wanted to do when you grew up. And then it was just that very natural conversation. And then at the same time, I was like, once I started my new career and also trying to navigate the challenges of childcare, in or around the school hours, and going into that new career. And I think also that was quite new to me, completely different from education, but also the conversation of transferable skills and how positive it was actually, because it is a really flexible employer. My manager was incredible. So it was also to showcase all of these really positive things. But I think that's the thing. It was just very natural. It was a coincidence. It was the time. It was kind of at the point in our lives. And a lot of these conversations, just happened to come up, I think.
And I have to say, Em, do you remember that awkward conversation we almost had after the LinkedIn thing went mental? And we both kind of sat down and we were like, okay. It was almost like we were like, what do we do about this? Like, we were friends, like, and the dynamic all of a sudden shifted into this thing where Emma was doing all this work on top of her full-time job, and I was sort of doing this bit, and we were like, okay, well, is this, what are we co-founders, are we not, are we, and actually, they discourage, you being a co-founder with your friend or whatever, and we were like, can we do this together? And there was a lot of that awkward chat, wasn't there? And we sort of we had a spa day booked in together just to chill out, and we actually ended up using that to do lots of chats around, because the thing had just literally gone crazy, and we were walking around the spa talking about, right, if this happens, are you okay with this? We're having these really hard conversations about this potential company we're about to create. It was bizarre, wasn't it? It was just like, last week we were like talking about nappies and potty training. Like, now we're going to take over the world. I don't understand.
It was just mad, and I think that's the thing with going viral. It like, that's the world that we live in nowadays. Like, to go viral does have, you can do that. You can set up a business on the back of that traction, which is mind-blowing. And that's the thing, and that's why I think we work in a very agile way, because you just have to. We were like, we didn't know what to expect. And yeah, you're right. We still, yeah, exactly. So we just have to continue that in that agile way. But I think it was nice knowing that from the onset we were able to, and I think we worked with each other long enough, I know not that long, that we kind of know how we work, and we've got kind of like our work personas in a way, and
we do, and we also, luckily, our cycles also are in line, so that, when I'm grumpy, Emma's luckily there to cheer me on, and we have it the other way around. So we just don't want those to sink in any way. That would be disastrous.
I was just going to say, so we have this idea of doing an away day at a spa, so I really like the sound of that, of like going away and, talking about our strategy and stuff. I think what's really interesting hearing you talk, you've had a really similar experience to us in that we ended up talking coincidentally, like you, talking about the things that annoyed us, and we've also had that experience of talking to so many other women where, they talk about that kind of systemic problem. They talk about how much more difficult it is to be a working parent than you think it's going to be. You think that your kid's just going to happily slot into childcare and never be sick, and all of those kind of things that you just don't know about before you're actually a parent. And we've not spoken to one person who's like, easy, I'm smashing it. It's really difficult. But I love the fact that you're providing something practical for people, a way to have those, jobs that work for them, enable them to keep their skills while also kind of challenging the system as well. And I think that's what sounds like really unique about what you're doing, that you're kind of challenging the system but also offering something practical. I think it just sounds really fantastic, and there must be so many people who can benefit from this.
We hope so. I think it is. Yeah. No, it's we're just going with our gut with this, right? It's kind of, and we've got a really engaged community of parents on our Instagram and on LinkedIn, who really share their experiences and their thoughts, and they're kind of shaping it with us, because we feel like this is just our kind of idea, but actually what is helpful, what is useful for you, what can we do that's different, how can we shout about this more, what can we do? So it's kind of a work in progress, but it's kind of a collaborative thing, because there are other people doing it as well. Like, you guys are talking about careers and things like that too is really important. So I think working together in that way and thinking about, well, what can we do? We're all on this sort of same path and same mission, essentially. What can we do together to make our voices heard? And because this problem has been around for years, and we need to be able to use what we can now to shout about it. And we got lucky with the social media thing. Like, there are other ways and vehicles that we can do this. So we just got to take it from all angles, I think, and bang down the doors of the places where they need to really listen.
Yeah, and I think
it's a bit of a movement at the minute. Sorry, Emma.
Yeah. I was literally just gonna say that. I just want to say, thanks very much, Alex. It's I mean, it's such a roller coaster, isn't it, Amy? Like, some moments we're like, yes, we're doing this, and then other times it's frustrating because we have such an exceptional talent pool. I'm not saying that because I'm like, oh, they're so great. I'm like, it's the people. They're waiting for jobs, and that's what's frustrating because we get the pain. That's why we set it up. So that's what I feel like it as well. Like that it's a movement, and I think collectively, because it's a global issue. It's not just in England. So I think basically it's a roller coaster and frustrating because it's a challenge, but also incredible because of the amazing people that we've met and we've chatted to, and amazing employers as well, like who are, want to really do great things as well.
I'm in recruitment, so I'm definitely interested in how you're making this work, because I know in terms of like getting the job. So do you guys actually just talk me through your process, because I'm keen to know, like, do you sort of obviously meet the companies, then also place the candidates in the role, or do you sort of give it past the candidates to the HR team and they manage the process? Do you see what I mean?
So
We're
not a recruiter at this point. We just made a
Okay.
decision that actually, in our capacity, we were going to start as a job board. That's not to say, we're working with recruiters, but so companies, if they have a 5-hour workday, they post their job on our board. We promote it heavily to all of our parents and share it, and then they can apply directly that way. But then, as with the pilot, we're doing a little bit more sort of hand-holding, if you will, with the employers who sort of need work in shaping those 5-hour work days, or, and we can, on the other side, look in our talent pool, see if we can help them with placing the parents. So all of the recruiting side of it is still within the hands of the companies, but we're promoting the roles that they do have at this point.
Okay. So you also sort of get the candidates reach out to you as well.
Yeah. So we have parents say, so it's scary. Like the amount of parents, mums that we have come to us saying, this is my story, this is my career, this is where I'm at. Can you find me something? And me and Emma, I would love to be able to find every individual person in our pool, a job. But it's a case of we can't in our capacity at this moment. Not to say in the future, but so we just promote it, and we'll share it as widely as we can. And for those parents who are ready, they create a profile on our board, and so when they're ready and they see a job they like, they'll apply. If we could do more to work more closely at this point, we would. But it's as much as we can at the moment. Yeah, it's a hard game, and recruit. It's a long process, isn't it? I guess in recruiting, So.
Oh yeah, I definitely know. Which is why I have so much respect for what you're doing, because I think passion, that drive, that personal experience, that connection with the other parents, because you're walking that journey as well. I think it's so powerful, and I just love the fact that you guys are really just running with it, because I think I think behind all this as well is this idea to mothers listening who want to make a difference, or not even make a difference. Sometimes that sounds that's quite overwhelming. They just want to do something, and I think what your journey is proving is that there is something in all of us as mothers, that maybe motherhood is actually it's an advantage, because sometimes it doesn't feel like it, right? Because you think you become a mom and you realize limited time you have, how much limited energy you have. But I think what you guys are proving to us is that in that frustration, in that sort of place of like, it's not working, there is something that can be done. And I love that fact that you don't have to have it figured out, right? You guys are just running with it. You're creating something. You're doing a pilot. You're learning as you go. And I think that's really a positive message.
Yeah, I mean, Emma has on your wall. You have Emma's speeches on a wall. I love it. It's brave, not perfect, and that's what we kind of had to be. But I would say to anybody, like, I had no idea, like with that post, and I just wrote it, didn't even think twice about it. Like, there was no intention. So I would just, if you've got something to say it. If you feel like there's something in you that wants to drive some action, do it. Because I don't think we're not. That's the sad thing, right? It's like you feel like you have nothing to give when you sometimes when you become a mum, like you feel like, oh, that's all I am now. I'm a mum. I'm just a mum, and I'm going to sit at home and okay, well, I can't go back to my career. I can't do that. That we're hoping that we can change that narrative. That actually, there is so much. It drives you more, doesn't it? We have a point now. Like there is a purpose that drives us. showing our kids that we work, or whatever it is, that why you want to go back to your career, there's a reason. And if you can sort of find a way to share that and do something about it, no matter how small, it could be commenting on a post or anything, just to support the action, then I think it's worthwhile doing, because the bigger our voice, then hopefully they'll start to listen. But
yeah, definitely. I think as well, when you have that identity crisis when you have children, there are so many people that really identify with that. I struggled when I went back to work because I was off 18 months through circumstances with my pregnancy. So going back, it was like going back and having a completely new job that people expected me to do, because it's like, oh God, everything's changed so much. But like you say, I think the skills that you gain through motherhood, you do have that loss of identity. You're not sure who you are anymore. You need to figure that out. And that is, I think it's such a common feeling for people, the kind of loss of identity. A lot of that identity is being wrapped up in your job. And then if you take that career gap, you're not quite sure who you are. So you need that time to kind of figure it out as you're getting back into work. And obviously having a shorter day to do that in allows you to kind of try out different things as well. It means you can do what Emma's done and have the career pivot. There's something else I was going to say there as well. Oh, the thing that always really bugs me about jobs in general, why do they all take 37.5 hours per week to do?
Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense at
No.
all. Like,
I'll
why...
tell you.
Come on, please.
I'll tell you, Alex. So, you know the origins of the 9-to-5 workday? Do you know where it came from?
Oh, is it to do with farming or industry or something like that?
Yeah, you're on the right track. So ultimately, in the 1920s, Henry Ford, in his factories, he was really interested in productivity, and he did kind of experiments on his factory workers to understand what was like the best set of hours that would give them most productivity. Now, in addition to that, he also had he also was able to use, oh God, this is terrible. I don't work in a Henry Ford factory, so I don't know. Essentially, what's the name? Assembly lines to make the cars. So they were able to make the cars much faster. So a combination of those things meant, so working hours, they used to be like 6 days a week and much longer. He was able to implement then the 9-to-5 workday, which he found was the best productivity for that time for those factory workers. Now, if we think it's 2025, 100 years later, and you are in a knowledge-based computer, at home hybrid environment, has there been experiments to show that 9-to-5 is best? No. In fact, that we know that productivity kind of peaks at about 4 to 5 hours per day in those sort of roles. So that's the other really exciting thing. We've met people from around the world who are, we know someone who their whole company are working a 5-hour workday for full pay. And this is, because they can prove they can match their KPIs, they can do this in a really in a productive way. So it's not even necessarily an arbitrary number. 37.5 versus 40 hours. Yes, that's an arbitrary number, but really it is. That's why it's so antiquated. I got it out, and it's completely outdated. And Henry Ford, he was not stupid. He was also aware about what his factory workers were doing in their leisure time. He wanted them to purchase cars and live their lives. So this idea, I think it's questioning, unless we question the status quo, unless we question something that is not working. And this is the one and perhaps only good thing about the pandemic, is when you've got these massive disruptors in history, then things will accelerate change. And it accelerated the workplace, but now we are going backwards. It's the same with World War II. It accelerated the development of antibiotics, because most of the people who died in World War I, it was from bacterial infections, but that accelerated antibiotics. And it's the same for the workplace in the pandemic, except we are going backwards with return to work mandates. But I think we have so much talk about the office and hybrid. And actually on LinkedIn, a lot of posts that get traction, like Amy's, are about part-time work. That's what a lot of people really want and need, it's not just want, they need those roles. So it's as humans collectively, we just kind of potter along and we just accept and we do it, we don't question it. But then if you stand back and ask collectively, well, wait just a minute, why doesn't this change? It doesn't make any sense. And I can't remember the original question.
I was just on like a big long rant about why does every job take 30 seconds?
Yeah, sorry. You said 37.5. I said I'll tell you about 37.5.
But what I love the historical kind of context and stories you brought to that, and obviously the facts as well, because I think it is sad, isn't it? How like we're kind of walking on this journey, but no one's questioning or even adapting it. It's just insane. Like
It is.
I have grandparents. Without grandparents, I would not even be doing this. It's a luxury to have, for me to have two children, a job, and be doing Mambition. Like sometimes I almost pinch myself, and that's just the reality. And a lot of people don't have that. They don't have grandparents who are maybe healthy enough to help them or close enough, and it's really sad. But hopefully, I think with all the conversations, with people doing something, everyone challenging the system, hopefully we can make a difference.
That's it. I think it's like you say, Tiffany, it's, it's looking at what we have got in our situations right now. Like we currently have a school day where our children are in school 6 hours. That's why we said sort of 5 hours to give, room to drop off and have a bit of lunch in between. That was a bit of a, plucked out the air, but at the same time, we now know it's also backed up by the research to say that actually 4 to 5 hours is, probably your most productive time anyway. So that works. So and there isn't the after school care to help people work until 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, to go and commute and do whatever they need to do these longer days. There isn't the systems in place to support us to do these long work hours. And, lots of people, like you say, don't have their village, their families around them to support them. So we have to work with what we've got, which is actually very little. So...
Yeah, I think it's just a win-win in terms of like, obviously we're coming at the angle from like, we have that mismatch of childcare, we don't have the infrastructure in place, but also at the same time productivity, so from a business, this makes good business sense. And obviously you are massively increasing the diversity in the pool of your talent. But I also just want to say, I really like what you guys are doing and having that conversation on LinkedIn as well. I think that's really important to kind of, when you're saying about like the identity crisis, but how amazing mothers are and the skills that we have and the transferable skills, because I think we all to some extent do have that identity crisis, because you do change as a mother, and I think I was naive before I became a mother and thinking, oh, I'm not going to change, I'm still going to be exactly the same, and it can increase your ambition, but it does absolutely change. So I really like what you guys are doing as well on LinkedIn and continuing that conversation, because it's really important to showcase how amazing we are as well.
Oh, thank you. I think we found it really important to post on there, partially to sort of destigmatize it, kind of show, when I'm going into the office, I'm usually going in on the bus with my son. I've got him up, I've got him ready, I've taken him on the bus to nursery, I've taken him there, I've picked him up, I've taken him home. So my day, the length of that, is so much longer than just the work day that I'm in the office.
Exactly.
Because from the moment I'm up to the moment he goes to bed, I'm kind of doing either childcare or work, and then childcare again. It's really difficult, and what you were saying, Amy, about the school day not matching up with the working day. I don't think the solution is necessarily to make the school day longer. I think it's shortening the working day, and also. The school holidays just don't match up with that either. I put mother in my bio on LinkedIn, despite the fact that I was like, is this going to hurt my career? But I feel like and I'm glad to see more dads doing that as well, because I think it then becomes harder for companies to know who to discriminate against. We're all out there saying that we're parents and, men taking more parental leave. Hopefully we're kind of destigmatizing it. We're stopping employees from being able to discriminate because they don't know who's going to need the time off. They don't know, rather than assuming it's going to be the women.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, it is, and that was one thing that we wanted to do, wasn't it? It was, to vocalise and showcase that actually this is not just a women's problem. It is, we feel the effects, the impact, but actually this is a parent problem. This is, both sides of the coin. Both sides have responsibility, whether or not the fathers take any responsibility in the home or whatever it is. Like, it's both sides, and we need to sort of come at this from a parent angle, because actually it's really, I think companies find it really hard. They sort of, I think it's easier, like say, to dismiss mothers and women and go, oh, it's just, you know, they're just having a moan. But actually, when it's dads and mums, like, and we're both following it, and we're both saying that actually this is really important, this impacts both of us, then they seem to be able to listen to that better, which is bad, right? You feel like you're playing that kind of, playing them off against each other, but it's like, well, you're not going to listen otherwise. You don't listen to us. It's not fair,
I
but...
think if women could solve it, we'd have done it already. If we could solve it alone, I think that we definitely need the dads on board to get
Yeah,
this done.
and the trouble is, I mean, it was funny when we looked through like the comments on that post, that we had a lot of, you know, senior leadership and C-suite members and saying, oh yeah, either, you know, my wife has felt this, she's been out of her career for 15 years, or, you know, all of these things. They were these sort of top level positions, and unfortunately, they don't necessarily feel the pain that you do when, you know, you have taken that time out, you have been the one to be the default parent and been the one to look after, and, you know, your career has taken the impact. And so that's where it's really tricky to make change then, right? Because if the top level people don't necessarily feel it and see the reasons to make the change, then they're not going to make the change below them. So it's a case of trying to see if we can, how we can talk to them to make them understand that actually this is their problem too. They're going to lose a huge talent pool of people if they don't start thinking about women and mothers and including them in their workplaces.
Yeah. I'm also interested to get your viewpoint on the mothers who do want to stay at home, right? Because I think we're just all so different. And I think, Amy, what you were saying about how frustrated you were about, like, I've got talent, I've got skills, and I want to use it. But there are also some women who are obviously clearly choosing to be a stay-at-home mom. Or, I mean, for example, there's a lady on LinkedIn, Neha Rush. She's written about the pause, the power of the pause, the power of just being home with your children, if that's what you want to do. I don't know if you have any kind of thoughts on that, or what you've seen people do around that as well. Yeah,
well, actually, I took 5 years out. So I made that decision. I was going to be at home for 5 years. I essentially, Nia has coined it as the power pause, and that, you know, that decision to be, I'm going to take that time out of my career. It's a season in my life. And interestingly, when I went into that, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think about, you know, what would happen after that 5 years, essentially, in terms of my career. I kind of thought, I'll just step back into it. And it's when that 5 years has sort of come up and I'm ready to go back to work, and I really enjoyed that time. But, you know, I didn't want to be at home forever. That, you know, my child went to school and I'm like, right, I'm ready to work now. I'm ready to do these things. But by having that time out of my career has had such an impact, not only financially for me, you know, short term, long term, you know, pension, all of those kind of things. But then, you know, how I felt stuck, I felt like an imposter, I felt like I hadn't got anything to give. And then, you know, sort of mentally, physically, all of those things that actually, on reflection, if I had known the impact that taking that 5 years out would have had on my career, I probably wouldn't have done it in the same way. I probably, if I could have gone back and sort of kept my toe in my career and kept things moving along, you know, and not had such a gap, then I probably would have done that, because not that I didn't enjoy it and I didn't think it's a really valuable time for my family, but now it's so much harder to be able to go back to my career. It's, you know, it's almost impossible. And the impact it's had, you know, financially and things like that. So it just feels you feeling very vulnerable. But I do think, that it's, I think what Naya's doing with the power pause, it's sort of recognising that women do want to stay at home, or parents do want to stay at home with their kids. They want to take that time out, but we need to be able to do it in a sustainable way where it doesn't have an impact. And unfortunately, at this point in time, it does. So it's kind of weighing up, you know, whether, you know, okay, well, that means that when I am ready to go back, it's just going to be really hard, and I might have to go into these entry-level positions and do, you know, change my career, whatever it is. Or you just suck it up and you say, okay, no, well, I'm going to have to go back after a year. I'm going to have to go back full-time, which is what Jodie Brady sort of suggests, because at the moment there's kind of no other way to keep your foot in the career door. So it's sort of recognising that at the moment there's no system in place to support us if we do want to take time out. So
Yeah, it is a massive challenge, but I just have to say, like, stay-at-home mothers, they're incredible. It is such a challenging job. It's an amazing job, obviously. But I think what we need to recognize, so I took a year off, and my boys were 1 and 3 at the time. And I was doing a career change at the time, and it was also partially because my youngest had health issues, so I wanted to keep an eye on him. And it was the most challenging year. It really was. It was because we don't have that village. I mean, some people do, but you know, I've got Amy. That's great. You know, she's definitely part of my village, but it's not what it was 50 years ago. It's not what it was, 30 years ago. So I think, but we also need to appreciate is that everyone is so different. And everyone, what I sometimes we do try to force ourselves into a position in motherhood and trying to figure out who we are and what we want. But the truth is, I can't delete that I always had this drive and I have these qualifications and I want to, I used to want to be a pilot when I was younger, and then I decided, no, I want to be a scientist because I want to use my brain. And, like, I'm not saying stay-at-home moms don't use their brain, but what I'm saying is you have to identify you as a person, what you can do within your set of circumstances and what is important to you. And I think Amy makes a really good point is to, with hindsight, it's good to be aware of, the consequences. And I think that's why it's really good to have that education piece for people to understand if you take that break, it is going to have an impact. So what can you do, and weighing and just making those informed choices. But no, I I think stay-at-home moms are incredible. But also, like, but what we found is it's not that we want to have it all. That's such a lie. Like, but we want to keep our toes in the water with a reduced our role, and that, to have that flexibility. But that is such a slim option. And and I was still getting like notifications from Indeed about, like, Amazon truck driver. Like, when did how did it doesn't make any sense. Like,
This is Emma makes a great point. It's not about us wanting to have it all and to be able to, like, you have children so we can enjoy being the parents and having that balance around them. Just at the moment, with everything else that we have to do in the house and the home and work and school stuff, there's so much, and it makes it almost impossible for most women to be able to have their career and their children. So it's almost like you're being forced to choose between them. And for some people that doesn't work because they love their career and they always have done, and that is part of their identity. And for others, they don't want to, like, I didn't want to have to go back to work because financially it made sense, because I loved spending time with my children. It was a really hard time, and I loved it, and I'm very grateful that I was in a position where I was able to do that. But that bit of me, like Emma said, didn't go away. That bit where I had my career didn't go away. I just wanted to be able to take that time out with my children and enjoy it, like a lot of parents would love to do too. And I think it's just recognizing that we don't want it all. It's impossible to have it all, but we would like to be able to have some sort of opportunity to be able to enjoy both and not have to be forced to make a choice.
just make it more sustainable. Just that. I mean, is it too much to ask for? I don't think so.
It's crazy. It is crazy. I was just going to say, having it all isn't having it all. It's doing it all. That's literally what it is. It's doing everything for everyone else. It's the path to burnout. It's impossible, and it makes you feel like you're failing at everything, like you're not doing your job well because you have to leave to pick up your children, when that's a systemic failure. That is not the individual person's failure, but it feels like that, and you're made to feel like that because you are supposed to kind of be in the workplace and almost apologize for having children, almost pretend you don't and work like you don't have them. But how can you do that? It's impossible.
Yeah, it's
I'm going to have a full-on rant here.
yeah, we've spoken to so many women who've actually left the workforce to maybe start their own business or kind of just create their own path, and we're seeing quite an increase of that as well. So I think sadly it sounds like a lot of women are just having to take the situation into their own hands as well with starting their own thing, and obviously forced to maybe develop a new skill set or build their brand on LinkedIn as well. That's another thing I've seen, that building the brand piece has actually allowed a lot of women to take a bit of a sideways move into creating a career that works for them and a lifestyle that works for them, where they can pick up their kids from school and go back to work in the evenings or do that. So yeah, I think women are just I think it's good because we are seeing a lot more of that as well.
'Cause I think
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing,
words
isn't it? You
for
kind
the
of,
world.
yeah, I think that's the thing though, right? You shouldn't feel like you're forced to do anything. You shouldn't feel like, well, I have no other choice. I need to go and start my own thing, because actually starting a business and running a business is a really hard thing in itself. And some people don't want that and aren't cut out for that, but they almost haven't got any other choice, but they want to use their skills. So it's like, okay, so what can we do to help all these people who want to have both things and do it sustainably, not burn out at the end of it? There needs to be more options, and currently there isn't any that work for parents, in our opinion, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Okay.
tough. And I think listening to other women and talking to them, it's radicalised both me and Tiffany, because the more people you talk to, the more you think, oh, it's not just me. And that's kind of comforting, I guess, to be like, oh, it's not just me who feels like this. But at the same time, you're both nodding for anyone who's just listening to this. It's infuriating, isn't it? It's really frustrating that is the kind of choice that people are faced with.
So that's exactly it. And like, I think especially when we released this survey, because over 2,500 parents completed that survey, and we were getting so many heartbreaking stories about how much they need this. And so I totally agree. Like, the more people that you talk to, the more stories that we see, combined with the data, you're like, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. And then when you see companies kind of doing just clearly tick box activities, you're like, this is not going to make a difference. So yeah, I agree. It's definitely putting petrol on the fire.
Yeah, but I love what you guys are doing. I think I definitely want to sort of end this on a note of kind of going back to anyone who's
Positivity.
listening. No, I think, listen, a bit of optimism, otherwise I will not even be here right now. Just kind of going, because I think, so many people would admire what you're doing, and I imagine it comes with a lot of kind of hard work in terms of, the structure that you guys have had. You mentioned a conversation you've had to have, even as friends, about how you manage this, what it takes to show up and do what you do. Because I think I just want to commend that, because, it's easy for us to look at your post and go, oh, lovely, like, post, love, reshare. But, to be who you are and to advocate for women, other parents, I think it's incredible. So I just want to say that, thanks for speaking up. Thanks for, kind of putting your pain out there rather than just, living with it and sort of making peace with it. Because I think that must have been hard, right? The decision to actually come out and do something. That's really hard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's funny actually. I think it was naive actually. Initially, I didn't know how many people are going to read my story and see my picture of my son in the background. I probably would have thought twice about it. But that naivety. But I think it's the vulnerability, right? That people feel. It's the pain that people feel. And I think if we can do anything to share the stories and to help other parents, other women. And in the longer term, our kids' generations become, parents, but to share this load, then we'll sleep easy at night. Maybe not tonight, because our kids will wake up and we've got lots to do. But it's, in the longer term, that would be great.
One day we'll sleep easy again. One day.
No, I
One
think
day.
because I think I think one thing. I mean, we're a podcast, so I don't our kind of mission is to encourage more mothers to be more them, or to be more courageous, bold, and see motherhood ideally as a good transition, because it's a lot of messages I say it isn't. So I hope that we've had this conversation with you guys. Look at Amy, look at Emma. Their life's not perfect, but they're doing something with motherhood. They found a passion in motherhood, and I think that's kind of what Mambition is about. So just trying to kind of elevate your voice in a way that encourages other mothers that, you can still do something, whatever that is. If you want to stay at home with confidence, but maybe plan it. If you want to go out there and do something, maybe, just fight, don't give up. Maybe that's the message I'm hoping we get out of this as well.
Yeah, it's been really
Absolutely.
great talking to you both, and it is nice, Tiffany, to end on a positive note. We're a bit ranty for a bit there, but I feel like the topic deserves the ranting, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we could do this for a couple of hours, I'm sure. So what are you guys working on at the moment? I'd love to know where you're at now with your products and, what kind of projects you're doing.
Yeah, so we're just launched a 5-hour workday pilot where companies can get involved and to measure the impact of this way of working over sort of 6 months and hire some parents into their workplaces. So that's sort of our focus at the moment. And we're also doing a lot of work with our parents and trying to help them find ways to sort of advocate for themselves and to, you know, think about how the motherhood penalty has impacted them. And we're creating some resources for them to be able to take it to their workplaces and, you know, almost ask for a 5-hour workday themselves, maybe if they're returning back to work after maternity. And we're just about to sort of, so we've had a lot of, what we also want to do is, you know, just help parents feel confident in going back to their careers after children. So we're working with coaches and finding a way to share what they can offer parents in terms of career support, and that's, you know, building confidence and all of those things in finding work, and, you know, even just applying for jobs, just sort of breaking down those barriers for parents. So, you know, we're doing a lot of work around that in the community as well. So lots to do, lots to keep us busy on our 5-hour work days that we work.
Where do people find you on your 5-hour work days?
So you can find us at 5-Hour Club, so 5hourclub.com is where you'll find the job board, 5-Hour Careers, and you'll find information about the pilots there and our survey as well. And then you'll also find us at 5-Hour Club on Instagram, where we've got a fab community of parents who can also get involved in our podcast, where we sort of share stories and have a chat and a rant about, you know, life. And also on LinkedIn at 5-Hour Club as well. And Amy, me and Emma have our own one as well if you want to follow what we ramble on about too. So.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been really brilliant. I feel like we could talk to you forever, but we will let you go to get back to your 5-hour workday.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. It's so lovely to chat.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.